Hi there, Warriors. This is not going to be a positive video because after drawing our opening game against Saudi Arabia, Uruguay have once again drawn at the World Cup against Cape Verde. And it leaves us in a really bad position with just one game left to play. This game obviously is going to be against Spain, reigning European champions. They are on 4 points. They are still not sure of their position as group leaders, finishing as group leaders. So they have got incentive to take the game to us to actually go and win the game, and we need to win. Because if we have get the draw once again, three straight draws, I mean, crazy to say that when you are in a group with Saudi Arabia and Cape Verde. But if we get that, there's a possibility of us going through. But we actually need to go for the win because we're not sure. We know what happened obviously last time around when we kind of rested on our laurels against Ghana when we were 2-0 up and needed another goal eventually in that game. So we basically need to and get that win against Spain. And if we cannot do that, then it's really I mean, we are out then, that's the reality. We are out of the World Cup. We are knocked out in the group stages of a World Cup for the second straight tournament. And that is just disgraceful. It's honestly horrific. I mean, where can we start? I mean, if you open a World Cup, and Uruguay obviously have done this quite a few times, it's tricky. Certainly, there are nerves there, and we've seen it many teams actually in this tournament, Belgium, and Spain, obviously against Cape Verde. Drawing your opening game, it can happen. Even though you should obviously win the game against Saudi because you're a better team, and eventually in the second half, you probably deserve to win that game. It can happen. But when that happens, you need to win your game, especially when you're playing against Cape Verde. I mean, all credit to them. They're one of the fairy tale stories of this tournament, you know? But it's Cape Verde. You're Uruguay. And not only when you look at it historically, but also when you look at the players, player for player. Come on, guys. You need to win that game. And the way we started the game wasn't that bad. But throughout this first half, I already saw that we kind of lost our way once again. And then Cape Verde gets the goal, the free kick, which I think never should be a goal. Whether it's the wall that should be adjusted better or has one more man in it, even if you take that completely out of it, Muslera shouldn't be beaten from that distance. And especially not with a shot like that. It wasn't the missile. It wasn't the Alex free kick for Chelsea back in the day. It wasn't anything like that. He shouldn't be beaten by that. But okay, that happens. And then Uruguay, towards the end of the first half, they get back in the game. That draw and then eventually take the lead. So like only a 6, 7 minute period, but it was enough for Uruguay to pile up the pressure and to get their goals. And it wasn't pretty. But at that moment we don't care obviously because you're leading at the World Cup. If you win this game, you're 4 points, and then you're practically through to the next to the knockout stages. And then you have the final game against Spain, in which you can actually go on and hopefully secure that the group leading position, which obviously is going to be difficult, but whatever. I mean, I'm talking now, but obviously we all know it didn't go like that, and we are now with 2 points. Then the second half happens, and Uruguay leading 2-1 kind of are in between two thoughts. They probably Bielsa the players want to get the 3-1 and put the game to bed, but they also are not confident at the moment. They do not have the solidity at the back uh, to kind of fully go for that. But they also don't want to like Tabares style park the bus or like be really pragmatic. And then out of that kind of lackadaisical way of looking at the game and not really taking the game by the scruff of the neck anymore, there's a mistake for Oliveira. He tries to play it into the center back position, but Cape Verde player gets the ball, and then Muslera, for no reason whatsoever, is way off his line, is way out of the penalty box, and tries to intercept and tries to like kind of recover possession again. But he should not be there. He should not be. He should be in the box. Caceres is still there. And even if Caceres is not there anymore, then there's a one-on-one situation with Muslera who can save Uruguay then. But this was just horrific by Muslera, and Muslera, I mean, the decision to recall him and to make him our first choice goalkeeper has been terrible, like absolutely terrible. Rochette is not perfect. He is not. I understand that, but he's a way better goalkeeper than Muslera at this moment. and Rochette should have been our number one. And this game, especially the last game, but also the game against Saudi, where I also think with some moments he wasn't that great, has confirmed that. It's like it's clear as day that Rochette should have been a number one. But that's not our only problem, Rochette. Ugarte has been terrible. For me, there's no reason why he should be, even though we turned the game around in the second half, he should not be on the pitch anymore. He was so bad. He was absolutely dreadful. And I think he was terrible in the first game as well. But okay, the thing is with Bielsa, it's like we haven't really called up a good alternative for him. Because Torreira should have been in the squad, in my opinion. He's the like for like replacement. Martinez is a little bit different of a player. But even though that's the case, I think Martinez or even Bentancur further down the pitch, like more defensive, would be a better alternative at this moment in time. But Bielsa keeps playing Ugarte, and it boggles my mind because Ugarte, who once was a really good player for us, has lost all confidence in the last 18 months with the situation with United, and he just is such a liability in every phase of the play. And I mean, Ugarte is one, Muslera is one, Valverde, the fact that he cannot show the player he is for Real Madrid, for Uruguay. He cannot carry this team or actually bring this team to another level or actually have a moment in his game where he scores that goal, has the decisive pass. He just cannot do it at the moment for Uruguay. And it's so incredibly frustrating to see that because we all know the player he is. We all know the stuff he is capable of. But this World Cup, he once again cannot deliver for Uruguay. The only two players that actually turn up for Uruguay at this World Cup, but especially last game, in my opinion, are Maxi Araujo and Agustin Canobio. And Maxi Araujo is the star of the team at the moment. I mean, he scored 2 goals and got 1 assist. And Canobio, even though I think he's a level below Araujo in terms of the player he is and the influence he has, even through just his work rate, he is already showing like levels to other players. And that's a sad thing to say because we have a team with players playing for good clubs in big leagues, and not all of them are in the greatest moment of their career. But it kind of pains me to see because for me, Uruguay historically, the way I've been watching Uruguay since I kind of fell in love with this team, is that we had players that were great players like Suarez, Godin, players like this, Cavani, obviously. But we also had players that they didn't have the greatest of club careers, but when they played for Uruguay, and obviously we're talking about Arvalo Rios, Tata Gonzalez, players like this, Alvaro Pereira, although all these players, especially Pereira and Gonzalez, they had decent club careers. But the thing that made me love them even more is when they played for Uruguay, and you saw it meant more. And they had that extra edge, that extra quality for Uruguay, because it meant more for them to represent Uruguay. I think another great example of this, and we don't like them obviously, but Chile, Eduardo Vargas, didn't really have a great club career, but for Chile, he was brilliant. And for Uruguay, there were many players like that during 2010, 2014, 2018, this kind of period. But I don't really see anyone at this moment in this team that has that shows that. And that really kind of makes me sad because it should mean more for them to play for Uruguay. But at the moment, it doesn't seem to be that, be like that. And Araujo, for me, Ronald Araujo was a great example because the amount of games he has missed because of injury, I mean, that would never happen with some of the players before. They would really like risk it all to play for Uruguay, especially in the World Cup. But okay, I mean, that's not the case. I mean, before going into some quotes from the players, I put this out because I really feel that this is a new low this tournament if we don't make it to the knockout stages. Like I said, drawing against Cape Verde and against Saudi is at the World Cup is just dreadful. I mean, no Salazar for this World Cup so far. That's also a big mistake for me. I mean, I would say it like this. Uruguay not performing in this World Cup, the players are massively to blame for it. The Valverde, for example, Bentancur, I think also is not the player that he was for Uruguay in the last few years. I think Cáceres has not been that great, actually, especially in terms of his passing. So there are quite a few players that have not turned up, you know. So massive blame to the players, absolutely, but also massive blame to Bielsa because Bielsa made the decision to recall Muslera. Bielsa has made the decision to keep playing Ugarte, to not really having good alternatives called up. Bielsa really oversaw this process in the last 3.5 years, in which Uruguay have regressed compared to where we were, for example, 2 years ago, coming into the Copa America, regressed massively. When you look at these first two games, you do not see a team with real identity, with real consistency in the way they play. You don't see it, and that's massively on him. Bielsa has failed in that regard. I think also with the way he built up the squad, leaving players out like Torreira, for example, but also another striker like Alvaro Rodriguez, who I think could have brought so much more to this team. Suarez as well. But okay, we're not gonna go over that again. Open the tournament playing a formation that we didn't really play uh, the last few years, just doing that out of nothing, playing for Verde on the right, um, and it didn't work. Phineas Darwin up top, didn't really play two up top during his reign so far, and then you do that all of a sudden. So massive blame goes to Bielsa. And if Uruguay get knocked out, Bielsa, obviously, I mean, I think it will be the case, but he should be sacked straight away. I think I saw him say that maybe this is going to be the World Cup is going to be the end of his reign. But then later on, he said that he meant it like in a way that the cycle ends, but it doesn't necessarily stop as Uruguay manager. But if he doesn't make it, if Uruguay don't make it out of the group stages, then obviously he's not going to be Uruguay manager anymore. And he has just overseen one of the most disgraceful World Cup tournaments in Uruguay's history. And I hope that's not the case. But I wouldn't be surprised if it is the case, because he's just not the manager that suits Uruguay at all. And he is too much concerned with what he thinks is good for his style of football, and he's not concerned as much as what suits this Uruguay team. And that's always a problem when it comes to national team managers. Your ideology shouldn't rule, shouldn't dominate. What should rule is the group of players that you have at your disposal, and that's where you should suit your ideas and your information to. That's always how Uruguay has been. So that's why also for me the decision never made sense. I was happy to be proven wrong in like the first like 6 to 18 months, but then everything has gone downhill. And people blaming Suarez for that are like the most ridiculous, idiotic persons I've ever seen. They're not to be taken seriously, honestly, they're not. But I think most rational people uh, would realize this. But okay. So yeah, Suarez also in the game wasn't too happy, was reacting a lot. Valverde, I mean, that's a photo that was taken from him, I think, after the game. And I mean, there's a part of me that feels bad for it as well, obviously, because I love Valverde. He's a great player, you know. And it hurts me to see that he's not been able to perform for Uruguay. And it seems like he cannot handle the pressure at the moment for Uruguay. And that's another thing why I mean Ugarte, we've spoken about him. He's just not the player that he was at the moment. De La Cruz came in. De La Cruz is a neat and tidy player, but De La Cruz, and that's not being nasty. I don't think De La Cruz is a player that when things are rough, when things are hard, when things are not going well, he's not a player that I believe can really turn the tide. I honestly don't think so. And Bentancur is a player that can do that, but Bentancur is also not Bentancur as we've seen in the last few years. And honestly, the player that I believe can do that and has done that for Braga, for example, this season in moments. And he's also had some tough moments, missing a penalty in crucial moments. But a player that can do that because he's got character, he's got the quality, is Rodrigo Salazar. And for me, when you have someone like Salazar, who's got so much offensive danger, who got so much, he's so physical, he's dynamic, he's all over the place. Someone who can do that is Salazar, and he can also help Valverde then taking some of the pressure off him. But he's never been given a chance. He's not played a minute at this World Cup. It's ridiculous. Honestly, it's ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, and Darwin also here, but I mean, you cannot blame Darwin a lot for this. He's played two halves of football, hasn't really got a chance. Like that's the thing with Darwin. Previously, he's missed a lot of chances, but now actually he's not really had an opportunity to prove himself. And obviously, he can make things happen himself as well. But I don't think Darwin is someone that should receive any of the blame for this tournament so far. Um, then I put this tweet out. Deluded as it may sound, having seen the first two games, we still have an opportunity to save the tournament versus Spain. I choose to believe in his team because of the potential it has and the history it represents. And this is obviously a part of this is me wanting to believe it, because I've seen his first two games. I mean, I'm an emotional fan, but I'm also can be quite rational. And then it's going to be obviously really difficult if you look at it purely rational, objective. Um, in the comments, I think every Uruguayan think this at least deep down. It might be crazy, but it's what our history shows. Um, yeah, many comments here. Some people don't believe in it at all. Some people have to believe a little bit, and some people fully believe it. So, I mean, yeah, it's really tough to see that happen. Yeah, something about Ignacio Alonso, but maybe that's another video. I mean, I think nobody can really be happy with how he's been as Uruguay or as Uruguayan FA president. Bielsa. Now we have to play against Spain with the need and obligation to beat them. It's a huge challenge for all of us. For me, since I'm responsible for Uruguay not getting more than 2 points out of six, but also for the team as it's an opportunity to improve our image against a great rival. Yeah. And Bentancur, it wasn't the result we were looking for, but we salvaged the point. Now we need to recover, and we're going to go for the win against Spain. Yeah, that's something. I mean, this one, but we salvaged the point is kind of a strange thing to say, and I actually don't think he meant it in that way. But you know what annoys me a little bit about Uruguayan players, the Uruguay internationals in the last few tournaments, and especially the last two World Cups, seeing the way things kind of unfolded is they come to the tournament and they talk about, yeah, we want to play the final, we want to play all games, we want to go for the fifth star, the belief is there. And when the tournament starts, when the tournament is about to start, I love all of this, obviously. But when you play like we played against Qatar, and when you play like we are now playing in the US, so in this World Cup, and I'm thinking, shut up, honestly, shut up, because don't sell us lies, sell us dreams if you're gonna turn up like that. And if you come up with something like, but we solved this point, talking about a game against Cape Verde at the World Cup. I mean, are you joking? Honestly, are you fucking joking? It's like insane to say that. And like I said, maybe it doesn't mean it that way, but it's the like the pre-tournament talk has not matched the way we've performed in the last three tournaments. Because I also would say the Brazil or the Copa America 2024, the game against Brazil, the game against Colombia. I mean, these were also not great performances. We scraped through against one of the worst Brazil teams in history, and then we kind of bottled it against Colombia, playing against them with the man up for over 60 minutes. So I love these players, I love this team, but would be nice to see kind of the football on the pitch, the dedication, the pride, the mentality match that the things they say ahead of the tournament. What else can I say, guys? I mean, we need to win the game against Spain. That's how I feel. I feel even if we draw, we're not sure about it. Yeah, we could go through maybe, but we're not sure of our situation then. We need to go and win the game against Spain. And if we don't, we are out of the World Cup for two straight World Cups. Um, and the thing is, when you play against Saudi and Cape Verde, you're opening two games. I think being Uruguay should win both of them. If you don't win one of them, there's no excuse in the world that you don't win the other game, the second game. It's like, and the thing is, this is another maybe it doesn't it's not really interesting, but I was actually sick on Saturday night, and I woke up Sunday morning like throwing up and sick all over the place, and then throughout the day I felt terrible. So, but obviously I stayed up to watch Uruguay, um, And I actually felt more sick watching or seeing how this game eventually ended because come on, you wait 4 years for Uruguay to play at the World Cup, and this is what you get served up. This is what you get served up. You went through the Qatar catastrophe, you know, when Uruguay arrived at the World Cup being high hope, having high hopes, having a good end to the qualifying cycle. And then you shit the bed against South Korea. You cannot do anything against Portugal. And then you have the Ghana game, which even leaves more of a bittersweet taste in your mouth because you saw what the potential of the team was. And then now, 3.5, 4 years later, you face Cape Verde and Saudi Arabia at the World Cup, and you cannot win a game of football. Are you kidding me? Honestly, it's ridiculous. And if Uruguay are knocked out of the group stages, and even if we go through against Spain, these first two games are, it's like unacceptable, I think. I mean, I know Tunisia sacked their manager midway through the tournament, and I know we're not going to do that. But the fact that we didn't win one of these two games, we drew both of them, that is sackable. It's a sackable offense. And there have been plenty of more from Bielsa in these last 3.5 years. It's just ridiculous what we have just seen against Cape Verde and against Saudi Arabia. Um, yeah, we can point to the positive side of things against Saudi Arabia second half. But for me, I'm tired of looking at the positives in these type of performances because there's no excuse for Uruguay to not win one of these games, to not win both of them, to be honest. But okay, not win one of these games. I guess I have to end the video because I just keep rambling on and stuff here. But yeah, that's the way it is, I guess. Uruguay 2 points to the two games, one game left to play against Spain. I will be live with Alessandro, Daniel, and Gabe ahead of the game later on in the week. I hope you can join us. Maybe it's gonna be a bit more coherent, with four of us instead of just me rambling on, still being quite ill. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. Like it if you want, and subscribe for more. And then I guess I'll see you soon. Bye bye.